Introduction. Why the truly strong are quiet. A strange paradox. Those who know a little speak with conviction. Those who have achieved a little feel the need to prove it. And yet those who know the most are strangely the quietest. We live in an age of self-display. We are told that survival requires constantly demonstrating our competence. And yet when we encounter people we genuinely feel to be wise, what we sense is not brilliance, but an unexpected lowness. Is humility the attitude of making oneself small? Or is it the highest form of intelligence, arising in those who see reality most clearly? That is the question we will explore today. The misunderstanding of humility. Humility is often misunderstood as making oneself small, concealing strengths, deflecting praise. But true humility is not seeing oneself as small. It is seeing oneself accurately, knowing the boundary between what one knows and what one does not, knowing that one's achievements were not made by one's own effort alone. That is where humility begins. Part 1. What arrogance misses and what humility opens. An arrogant person sees themselves as large, but look more closely, they are seeing the world as small. Not knowing the size of what they do not know, they make easy pronouncements. Not seeing the help they have received, they attribute everything to their own ability. Arrogance is not a personality flaw. It is a narrowness of perception. And conversely, humility is not the thought that one is small. It is the recognition that the world is large. True humility also requires a solid foundation of self-worth. The anxious person tries to appear large. The person who needs recognition seeks to prove themselves through words. But the person with firm inner standards feels less compulsion to display. Humility is not the erasure of the self. It is the return of an inflated ego to its proper place. Part 2. The nature of humility as philosophy has found it. Socrates, the wisdom of not knowing. The oracle at Delphi declared Socrates the wisest of all men. Bewildered, he went to those known for wisdom and talked with them. What he found was strange. They were convinced they knew, but in fact did not. He arrived at one conclusion. The single thing that made him better than others was this: he knew that he did not know. This is the famous wisdom of not knowing. The more one knows, the more one comes to know how much one does not know. That knowledge is what produces humility. Zhuangzi, the world beyond the well. Zhuangzi's frog in a well takes the small space in which it lives to be the whole of the world. Describe the ocean to it, and it cannot comprehend. This parable is not written to mock the ignorant. It is written to remind us that we all, in some measure, live inside a well. The well of our own experience, the well of our own beliefs, the well of our own successes. Humility is the willingness to acknowledge that we may still be inside it. Confucius, knowing the boundary. To know what you know, and to know what you do not know. This is knowledge. The Talmud compressed this insight. Who is wise? One who learns from every person. The person who believes they already know enough can no longer learn. Laozi, the power that flows to lower ground. Shangshan Roshui, the highest good is like water. Water does not contend. It flows downward. It does not promote itself, yet it gives life to all things. Soft, yet in the end, it wears away the hardest stone. Arrogance may overwhelm people in a moment, but humility gathers people over time. Montaigne, what do I know? Montaigne posed one of history's most humble and penetrating questions. Que sais-je? What do I know? People too readily mistake their own experience for universal truth. But behind another's words lie wounds and circumstances one cannot know. Beyond one's own experience lies a world one has not yet imagined. Perhaps there may be a context I'm not aware of. It's possible I'm wrong. This is not indecision. It is the deep intelligence that arrests the impulse to judge too quickly. C.S. Lewis, looking at the other first. A humble person is not someone who thinks poorly of themselves. A humble person is someone who does not think about themselves very much. False humility says, I am nothing, while remaining obsessed with oneself. True humility turns the attention first toward others and toward the world. Part 3. Korean Wisdom. Those who learn by lowering themselves. Yulgok-ii, learning as self-reflection. Yulgok-ii wrote in his Gyeongmong Yogyol, to establish one's will is not the ambition to rise above others. It is recognizing one's own insufficiency and setting one's direction toward becoming a better person without the awareness that one is not yet finished, that one is still someone who must learn. The work of self-cultivation cannot begin. Wonyo, descending to be with the people. The Silla monk Wonyo, the most learned Buddhist scholar of his time, one day set down his position and went to the streets among ordinary people. This was called mueheng, unimpeded action. What Wonyo demonstrated, genuine humility, is not self-deprecation. It is the deliberate choice to lower oneself while knowing one's own height so that one might reach more people. Yonam Park Jiwon, wisdom drawn from below. Traveling through Qing Dynasty China, Yonam Park Jiwon found genuine wisdom not in splendid palaces, but in discarded roof tiles and ordinary people's lives. He sought wisdom in conversation with coachmen and servants. To believe that one already knows everything is to close the window through which the world teaches. Only when one lowers oneself do others' gifts begin to flow inward. King Sejong, listening to the voice from below. Sejong held the highest position in the land, and yet he did not believe he alone knew everything. The creation of Hangul rested on this orientation. He had seen that ordinary people had things to say, and no script in which to say them. He did not look down from a high place. He listened to the voice from below. True humility resides not in words of self-effacement. It resides in the genuine capacity to hear the voices of those who stand in a lower place. Part 4. What psychology has found about the power of humility. The Dunning-Kruger Effect. In 1999, Cornell psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger found people with limited ability tend to overestimate their own competence. This is the Dunning-Kruger Effect. Read one book and the world may appear simple. Read 100 and one begins to see how complex it actually is. The more one knows, the more precisely one sees the size of what one does not yet know. This is the reason wise people are humble. Intellectual humility, the condition for better judgment. Intellectual humility is the willingness to acknowledge that one's own beliefs and judgments may be mistaken, not the absence of opinion, but the refusal to absolutize one's own views. Research consistently finds intellectually humble people are more aware of their own biases and more capable of finding common ground in conflict. The humble person is not someone who diminishes themselves. They are the person who never stops growing. Jim Collins, credit to others, accountability to oneself. In Good to Great, Jim Collins found that the leaders of truly great companies were not charismatic star CEOs. They shared a paradoxical combination of fierce professional will and personal humility. Great leaders use a window and a mirror differently. When things go well, they look through the window to find credit in others. When things go badly, they look in the mirror to find the cause in themselves. Leaders who share the credit find more people gathering around them and greater achievements being made together. This is where the power of humility as a force lies. Benjamin Franklin, humility can be trained. Benjamin Franklin did not include humility on his original list of virtues. A friend told him plainly, "You are arrogant." Shaken, he added it to the list. He learned, when people disagreed with his views, posing careful questions rather than direct contradiction yielded far more. Franklin's experience shows that humility is not innate. It is a skill that can be practiced and developed. Part 5. The qualities of those who are truly humble. They can say they do not know. "I'm not sure about that. I need to look into this more. I'd like to hear more of your thinking." These words can appear weak, but they are in fact very strong. Only the person who values knowing the truth more than protecting their own image can say them. The admission of not knowing is the door through which learning begins. They know how to be grateful after achievement. The humble person does not deny their accomplishments, but they know those achievements were not made by their own effort alone. Help from others, conditions of the time, the people who walked alongside, luck and opportunity, so they can be grateful. The person who believes they achieved everything alone ends up alone. The person who knows the achievement was shared goes further together. True character is revealed before those who are weaker. A person's humility is revealed, not in front of those with power, but in front of those without it. Being respectful to the powerful can be strategy, but refraining from speaking carelessly toward the less powerful, not treating their existence as negligible. That is the depth of the person. Self-examination comes before self-certainty. Am I being too quick to judge right now? Have I listened sufficiently to the other person's circumstances? Am I taking my own experience as the whole picture? This small pause is what makes a person wise. Humility is not a matter of tone. It is the capacity to slow the speed of one's thinking. Conclusion: the person who sees more widely by standing lower. It is clearer now. The reason wise people are humble is that they know life, people, and the world to be vastly greater than their own understanding. Socrates' wisdom of not knowing, Zhuangzi's world beyond the well, Laozi's water flowing to lower ground. All of these point in the same direction, and modern psychology confirms it. The more one knows, the more humble one becomes. The humble person makes better judgments. The humble leader builds a greater organization. Humility is not weakness. It is the eye that sees oneself accurately, the open attitude that never stops learning, and the strength to meet another person with genuine sincerity. What stands in the way of humility? Look closely, and there are things that obstruct humility. The desire to prove oneself through comparison, the tendency to conceal what one does not know, the habit of claiming one's achievements as entirely one's own, the carelessness shown toward those in weaker positions. These quietly lead us toward arrogance. Small practices that build humility. Asking once a day, What is it that I do not know? When hearing a different view, not contradicting immediately, but looking first for what can be learned there. Recalling, after an achievement, the help present within it. Reflecting on the attitude shown today toward those with less power. Humility is not proved in grand settings. It shows itself in a small choice of words, in the direction of a glance, in the willingness to wait. The grain of today. First, humility is not seeing oneself as small. It is seeing oneself accurately and acknowledging the vastness of the world. Second, arrogance is not seeing oneself as large. It is seeing the world as small. When one forgets there are worlds one does not know, one begins to pronounce too readily. Third, the wise person can say they do not know. That admission is not weakness. It is the door through which learning begins. Fourth, true humility is revealed before those who are weaker. Respecting people, regardless of their position, shows the depth of one's humility. Fifth, humility is a powerful force. It wins people rather than arguments and sustains success, rather than merely displaying it. Sixth, humility is a skill that can be practiced. Saying, "I don't know today," listening to a different view before responding, these small practices change the grain of a life. To see more widely, stand lower. Sometimes it is by standing lower that we see more broadly. The person who flows, like water, to lower ground. The person who does not place themselves first, yet sustains those around them. The person who is quiet, yet trusted for a long time. That, perhaps, is the person of wisdom. Humility is not thinking of oneself as small. It is knowing how large the world is. And from that knowing, the deepest wisdom begins. An unseen current has carried us to this place. The years that passed unspoken shaped us into who we are. Life is always flowing, and we live by carving our grain upon its quiet course. Thank you for staying with us all the way to the end. I hope this story has become a pair of eyes that see your life a little more deeply than they did before. Wisdom heard once tends to pass us by, but wisdom heard many times becomes the language of our own lives. If something resonated with you, we invite you to listen again. Each time you do, something new will reveal itself. Life cannot be explained. It only gathers, grain by grain, in silence. The grain of life loves you always. I hope your today is a little stronger than your yesterday. We will return with stories that go deeper still.